I was told you like the blue drink.
Yes, I do. Thank you. I haven't had one of these in a while. The cats ran.
Thanks for having me over. I love your neighborhood. It's so pretty.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for having me here today.
Of course.
Super excited to get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah.
So in doing that, I know you from Florida Dance Theater, from having a long time relationship with that institution and the fantastic people who work there. And so I know you as a dancer. So tell me a little bit about you as a kid growing up. Have you always danced, or was that something that came along the way?
Yeah, so I started dancing when I was 4, living in Mobile, Alabama, which is where I was born. And it started off with ballet. I knew that I loved that when I was that age. My old dance teacher used to call me Miss Sarah because I was like serious as a 4-year-old about how like I knew where my carpet square was and this is where my arms go. So I like took to it and eventually added different genres like jazz, tap, and when I was 13 we moved here to Tampa and then just kept training all throughout high school and then USF and then ended up at FTT like you said. So
Yeah.
It never stopped.
Never stopped. So when you were in, when you were in middle school and high school and talking about, where to go from school, you knew you wanted to study dance.
Yeah, I think I was in my sophomore year of high school when I was like, okay, I want to dance professionally. Like that was like the year where I was like, I saw a performance by a dance company that like got me enough where I was like, that's what I want to do. Even though I'd done it my whole life, I knew at that point. So I kind of like switched routes and got very serious about my ballet training from very intense people who I love and credit now for a lot of my training. And yeah, so that was sort of the moment that I was like, okay.
What kind of dance performance? It was a performance?
Yeah, there was a contemporary ballet company called Complexions Contemporary Ballet, and so I saw them perform, and I also met one of the artistic directors at a workshop in Orlando and did, I think it was a 2-day workshop with him, and then I got a scholarship to go to their summer intensive in New York. So I did that, and that was awesome because I got to do that as a high school kid, and it was like college-age students.
Oh,
and
nice.
so that was like, oh, this is sort of the intensity that you want to step into, and it was, more than I was used to. They're expecting like college-age level dancers and maturity. So that was like a nice stepping stone to know like, oh, this is what this is going to take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that degree is meant to get you a job as a professional dancer and or a choreographer. What are the different ways you can go once you have that?
I would say the degree at USF sort of is pretty broad. There's a lot of choreography training because there's 4 semesters of choreography in that degree.
Wow.
But I would still consider it a conservatory style program because it's very technique heavy as well. So it's a really good mix of intense class training, opportunity to learn how to create choreography for, like I said, 2 years, and then also like sprinkled in you're getting to perform, and then also all the academic classes that are dance related. So it does a good job of preparing you kind of to go out into the world however you want to, whether that's like a dancer, a choreographer. Even we've had some people go on to be like arts advocacy for companies and like big schools, things like that. So it kind of feeds into a lot of routes because you're getting a lot while you're there.
So it also prepares you for, like, would you say the marketing aspect of a company? Is that what you meant by advocacy? Or
Yeah, some people like went on for that to be their job where they were marketing or they were just like helping gain dancers or followers or whatnot for big companies. Like a girl in my class has done that for Portland Ballet, I believe. And so it's like there's enough info there to be a dancer, but also to be like in a different role within the dance world.
More administrative and
Yeah.
like building companies.
Yeah,
like
to kind
so.
of like help support. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know that it's so hard in the arts to, you have your art concentration, whether that's visual or performing, whatever that is, wherever that falls into the actual art form, and then, but to make it, to make it lucrative or sustainable, you have to have all of these other skills that a lot of times you're not taught, how to market yourself and how to, like you said, advocate for yourself and recruit and those types of things. And it's really difficult for artists to make, it seems like it's very difficult for artists to make a living wage on their, art alone. You need all of this whole other set of skills, it seems like, and it just seems really difficult. So you are, what I have learned recently, you're also a visual artist. The photographs in your bathroom, are those yours?
Yes,
They're beautiful.
Thank
and
you.
these behind you, these are yours too?
Yep.
So, when did you get into visual art, and was it, I know you do painting as well, so tell me what came first. Your mom's an artist. Yeah.
So that's actually where it started. When I was little, of course, because my mom's an artist. Actually, my grandma is also an artist. We have like 3 generations of visual artists that are women in my family,
cool.
which is always something I'm like, when they give me the moment to do like, what's your special like sentence about you? I'm always like, I have 3 generations of women artists, and people are like, whoa.
That is so fantastic.
So from a young age, of course, I started learning how to draw and paint and get super interested in that, just because I saw my mom working on that kind of stuff all the time. There were like murals in my room, when I was little, so I was like into it. So when I was in high school, I kind of took more of a serious take to it when I was in the school hours. And then, of course, I would go dance all night. So I started doing like AP art in school, and I was doing like photography and sculpting and all kinds of different things. So I did that kind of the last 3 years of high school, and that's when I got really like into like, oh, I feel like I have a different artistic voice, not just as a dancer, but as a visual artist, which was nice to get to nurture as well, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. That just thrills me. And that's sort of what the whole abstract series, when I first created the original 5-show series, it was meant to be a sort of ekphrasis, taking visual art and pairing it with performing art to further the conversation, in the paintings. And I just love that. I think that I view art as communication, and to kind of, intertwine the different dialects, as it were, really just thrills me. I love to do that, and just makes the message or the story of, whatever you are talking about, it just makes it richer, in my opinion. And it's interesting, I've been looking at, knowing I'm coming here to talk to you today, I've been looking at your most recent paintings that you've been posting, and it may sound corny, but I feel like I see your choreography in your paintings.
Yeah.
It's so, and for me, that's really crazy cool, because I even recently said to a former colleague of yours, I was talking to Molly, and I said, I don't always understand the story. I can, I can appreciate the choreography, I can appreciate the dance, even though I don't understand the exact language, and when I said that to her, I was really genuine in that sometimes I watch a dance and I don't get it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I don't appreciate it. You know, I can appreciate the beauty and the form and the costumes and the music and the way it all is put together. You know, I just don't always get it. I don't get what the message is in it. Same thing with abstract visual art.
Yeah.
You know, I will often look at abstract art and think, I really don't get it, but I really like it, you know? And I was excited to recently be looking at photographs of your paintings and be like, wow, I feel like I can see her choreography in these paintings, you know? I first fell in love with your choreography, not having seen any of it before, or not that I knew that I was seeing your choreography, with Mind Dust.
Oh.
That was in the 6 Feet Together document, or 6 Feet Together film series. I loved that piece.
Thank you.
It just resonated with me, and that was the first time that I had really taken note, you know, of your choreography. And I love the fluidness of it and the humanness of it. And, you know, I don't know what you're saying, but I know how it feels, you know, and how it resonates. And then when I was recently looking at your paintings, I was just like, wow. I feel like I can see, you know, the choreography in there. I don't know if I'm making it up, but it felt real to me.
Yeah, no, I would
it was
say
fantastic.
I would say there's definitely like a very clear overlap. Like you said, in that piece, there's a lot of fluidity, but in general, as a mover, I'm often, whether it's improvisational or I'm choreographing it, it's often very like naturally fluid. So the fact that these paintings really are taking acrylics and I'm using them, you know, in a fluid way with water and treating them, and the way that I'm treating them gives these like textures that look like movement. I think that that's like where the overlap lays, is that it kind of continues like your eye even off like the canvas ideally.
Yes.
So just giving like that constant motion with the design and like the different textures, I think, and with the color, the contrast and whatnot. So
Yeah. When did you get into doing that kind of abstract painting? Because I've looked at some of your mom's work, and her work is not abstract.
Right.
When did you get into that?
I would say the paintings themselves, I started a couple months ago now. It's actually not been long that I've been doing the abstract paintings, probably about 6 months or so, maybe not even. I've always been very much doodling in these sort of like abstract loopy pen drawings. I've done that since like high school, and I have those since like back then through now. And those are kind of also something that I'll sometimes use to structure as like a choreographic score, where I'm following the drawing in certain ways, or I'm using it to make choreography.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's sort of evolved into like, how can I do this with painting? How can I manipulate paint? Because paint pouring kind of is like a thing that got really popular, and I saw some of the different acrylic pouring techniques, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool how that works, and the effect it gives. How would I kind of do my own take on that?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what they are.
Nice.
Yeah.
So did you finish your master's, or you're still working on it?
Nope.
Okay, so you're working on your
I'm
master's.
in it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yes. It's definitely a lot.
So a master's, if you're able to concentrate on it and go straight from your bachelor's, a master's takes about 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Or 2.5 years?
Yeah, depending on the structure, because the program I'm in is accelerated, where you have to do summers, it's 2 years, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you graduated 2015, and it's 2020. 21.
Yes.
So tell me what's been going on in the interim.
Yeah, so once I graduated in 2015, I got a job with Florida Dance Theater and was dancing there for 5 seasons. And that was really my bulk of, I just graduated school, I want to like go into a professional world, and that was really like my focus. And then I started teaching at Florida Southern College. I believe it was my 3rd season at FDT, and then I was like, oh, I really enjoy teaching college age students because of how serious they are. A lot of them want to be professional dancers. I can really talk to them and relate to them so easily because they're mature and they really want this. So it's something that I'm like, oh, that's something I feel really strongly about. Even though I've taught even younger students, I really connect to the college age. So 2020, COVID happens,
Right.
and I'm like, maybe it's time to think about this choreography degree like as a master's, because I knew that that would allow me to go eventually into a program where I was teaching at a college level, maybe more long term, because that's sort of like the requirement to be there as like a permanent faculty member for most places. So I knew that, and I also knew it would grow me as a choreographer because I have the intention of starting my own company one day. So
Nice.
it kind of serves multiple purposes at once.
Right.
And it fell at the great time of COVID, and it was like all the studying right when COVID happened. So it fit in the right moment.
Yeah. So that kind of worked out for you. So were you quarantined with Justin during
Yes.
that time?
Yep.
And you guys are so fun. By the way, Justin is real, people. I don't know where the camera is right now, but we always joke that I'm always talking about this Justin
And he's
person
not
who
on the
never
camera.
who never ends up on camera.
That's
But
funny.
you live with the real live Justin and can attest that this camera guy exists,
Yes.
at least in our own minds.
Yes.
So you guys are so fun. I love looking at your posts, and oh my gosh, your couple's costume, cat dog. Oh my word. I just look at you guys and think, I wish I could be that fun. Maybe someday. Probably not. I'm a very serious person. But okay, so during the pandemic, you started working on your master's, and so that's only been what, a year?
A
You've been
year and a
working on
half
it? A year and a
now.
half?
I actually
Okay.
will only have one more semester in spring, and then I'll be finished. So
Nice.
I'm in the long stretch.
Yes. And so when you you've done several dance films recently. Phantasms?
Oh yes, Phantasms.
And that
this
was
past
part
summer.
was that part of a collaborative thing? And was
Somewhat.
that a school project?
Yes, so it was a school project. It was essentially just we had to make a dance film for our final film class we had over the summer,
okay.
and I was working on a piece of choreography at the time for ERA, which was a Tampa City Ballet project that the dancers essentially made all the choreography and just made a summer show that was like a bunch of different pieces. So the material from a dreamscape piece that I made was what made up that piece itself, and the dancer was from that piece as well, and I just had her kind of collaborate with me, and between me and Hannah Thompson is her name, and Justin to help make the dance
How
film happen.
convenient
Of
to
course,
have your own videographer.
imagine anytime that I want to make a dance film, obviously I have a great collaborator that I very easily have access to, so
Right.
that's a big plus. Yeah.
So you guys really work together when you are at home. So you kind of have to go outside to escape each other. I don't know. I'm not saying that the way I intend to, but
Yeah, no, I feel like a lot of what we do is definitely layered, and to the point where we work together so much, even if like he's working on a project that I have nothing to do with, he'll be like, take a look at this, what do you think? Is this a good angle for the choreography? And
Yeah.
vice versa. I'm like, do you think the lighting of this shot is okay, or do I need to like change the exposure and editing? Things like that, like so easily we have a dialogue about how things could be improved, because that opinion is just like a door away.
Right. The
Yeah.
perfect pairing
Yeah.
of artistic minds. Your most recent work, Undesignated Calcium. Were you, it said on the description, the YouTube description, that it was an experimental piece. Was part of that experimenting with ASMR? Like, you know, like the noise, the different noises, you know, with the folding of the paper and everything.
That was definitely
it was
part
really
of the
cool.
intention. Yeah.
I loved the choreography during the knife in the jelly, and then your leg choreography with that. Oh, it was just so cool. I really, really loved it. I was sorry I couldn't do some commenting and stuff,
Okay.
but I really liked it. So I'm curious, when you were pouring the milk, what were you pouring the milk onto? Like, how do you do that and protect the camera?
I'll have to ask Justin
if you're allowed to give away.
Reveal.
That's
one.
secrets.
That's actually a point that came up during the talkback, and I was like, I'm not gonna talk about it because that's the movie magic moment.
Right.
If I tell them, they're gonna know it's not gonna be as fun.
Okay. Maybe I don't want to know now that you said.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We won't take away the magic. So I met Justin as well through Florida Dance Theater and him doing dance films in collaboration with them, and loved his work, loved your work, knew that I wanted to work with him on this documentary series project. And when he and I were having meetings, you know, in the beginning, I had already thought that I would really love to feature you, but didn't know if you would feel connected to the theme in any way. And I asked Justin about it, and he suggested that you might. And as I understand it, what he thought you might connect, the thing that he thought you might resonate with was not the thing that we ended up talking about. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your trauma, Sarah. And I'm actually have been a little bit nervous and curious how we talk about that with Justin in the room, but let's do it.
No,
let's get down to it.
We can for sure.
Yeah.
I would say when he was diagnosed with diabetes, it was definitely a little bit hard. It was an adjustment for us to begin with, because he had been dealing with not really understanding what was going on with his body for a while. And then once we kind of found out, okay, this is our new normal and this is what it's going to be, we both were really ready to accept that. But I think it was still a stage of him going through a lot of physical pain in the beginning, which of course, as his significant other, was a lot of me taking on a support role and finding out, of course, how I can make that less for him all the time. So that ended up pouring into a solo work that I made while I was at FTT. And it was a very emotional solo that often caused a lot of crying to happen even in the studio, because, you know, when they were trying to support me as I supported him, and just the environment in the room was heavy when I was doing that and making that. However, I still feel like it was something that offered, like, not just an outlet for me, but a way for me to understand something through a medium that I was so used to. Like a way to process what was going on, something I had never experienced, in a way that was, like, visceral and physical, rather than just mental. So it was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were dealing with it not knowing what was really happening and just seeing his body kind of change and not know how to process that change, not knowing what was going on. So we were dealing with it before that, but once he was diagnosed, it was like at least we understood where it was coming from, and we knew where we could go from there and what, you know, that healing process was going to happen, and we knew how it was going to look then. And so that was very much helpful and hopeful for both of us, I think.
Yeah.
Tell me more about undesignated calcium. That was I was going to say a true collaboration, and I don't mean to say that other things are false collaborations, but was that the both of your ideas come together, or was that one of your projects that he shot? How did that?
So it's
How was that born?
started as it was a school project that I had to do a collaboration with someone in a different field for like a major project for one of my classes. And so I was like, oh, I have that very readily accessible to me. Yes, it's not the first time we've collaborated, but I will say it was like the first time that we did fully collaborate, and it did feel very like equally part like versus like you said, where it was like a project that he was shooting that was like my concept or something else, some other kind of like mix. It was very much us meeting half and half, and us kind of doing a lot of research, which is a different approach than I think we've taken a lot before. Besides doing our own like research of ourselves, we did a lot of actual like computer research and a lot of gathering to build what we ended up creating together.
Maybe like a hint of the intention would be, so when we were talking a lot about throughout the development of it, is you'll notice that there's a lot of sounds in it. And, you know, and the visuals are very unusual, and we sort of wanted you to be able to have an experience that was a lot like somebody discovering something or rediscovering something for the first time, or being able to see it in a different way. So when we were looking at textures and sounds and doing some research, I actually wrote, it's some of my journaling about a kid for the first time who would like take a magnifying glass into his backyard and find something, or find like blades of grass and bugs, and be able to like walk by them every single day, but now suddenly get to see them in a different way. And that's sort of how we want to present a lot of different ideas.
Yeah.
Almost as if you were,
Relearning, reassociating, or changing your associations and questioning them. I think that was a big goal of like, you have this visual that you probably already hold a lot of ideas about, but how do we change that by offering a sound that you don't expect to hear when you see that visual, or seeing it from an angle or a texture, and like all these layers together that make it something that's different for your mind.
Yes.
You know? So I think that was like, we wanted it to be kind of like an opening of people's imaginations in that way. Yeah, it's that moment of like the audience thinking that they know for sure the intention of the creator, and I think everyone has the moment of like, they realize that that's what it is, but it's also like everything is subjective. So it's cool to know that like you think you know, but like who knows until you're told. That's kind of like part of the magic of any kind of art is like, it's so subjective, but when you have an idea, an intention that you like recognize and are comfortable with, you're like, that has to be it.
That's it. Yes. Well, and I mean, really, then that is it. Like, you know,
because that's the purpose, is for the audience member to find what it is for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I know we didn't plan this, but I was just thinking on the way
Over here, we have interviewed couples a couple times now, so why not get another artist in on the interview, and especially since the trauma and recovery that was the focus of Sarah's participation is you. and your trauma. And so, having not warned you that I was going to do this, and it wasn't intentional, it was literally something I thought of on the way over here. Tell us how that has been for you. So your art is filmmaking. You're a photographer as well, filmmaker.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
So when did you get into that?
When my dad first showed me Star Wars and Jaws when I was probably 3 or 4 years old.
Wow. You were watching Jaws. Oh my gosh. I still have a hard time closing my eyes in the pool. I don't need to see Jaws ever again.
I love that movie.
It is the stuff of my nightmares. So as a kid, you were watching Jaws and loving it. When did you start making your own films? So now you're making me think of like the Goldbergs. Like, were you the kid, running around the neighborhood with your camera, filming stuff, and
honestly,
your
it was
own
a dream
films?
for a while. It was a dream for a long time. I just kind of like carried around magazines and just always dreamt about owning a camera. And it wasn't until I stole my mom's like high 8 video camera that she used to videotape our Christmases with that I made a stop go like thriller about a murderer breaking in somebody's house. I made this in the middle of the night while my family was working night shift, and I got like ketchup like all over the house to use as fake blood, and it was a disaster, but it was like the coolest experience. And after that I was like, I have to just do this.
So, how did your mom take it? Like, were your parents cool with it? Like, this is really cool, or man, this is really messed up?
Like, well, you got ketchup all over the house, so that's a bad thing. But honestly, I think everybody thought it was a really cool idea, like a really cool dream. I mean, it is big, and it's definitely something that you just have to work hard at all the time. And it was just always instilled, like, hey, if that's your dream, you got to put in the work.
Yeah.
So it was like that since day one.
So then your parents were supportive after that. When did you get your own camera? How long did you use your mom's camera before you got your own?
I might have done it twice, and then I ended up getting my first camera when I got my first job, and then I filmed a whole bunch of like vlogs. Like I just documented my day all the time, and then that quickly grew into buying my first Nikon, and then I started making my films, and that's where I actually start, really, I guess.
You are, you, Justin, have been pursuing your filmmaking career, but at the same time, like a lot of artists, we're working our day job to pay for our night job. So that's kind of where you are. Is that correct to say?
It's the grind.
Yes.
You dream all day.
Yeah.
You just kind of like operate the motions and just go with the flow. And then at night, it's kind of like the lights go on.
Yeah.
Clap, 3, 2, 1, and your dreams are alive.
Yes. Yes. It makes it hard though to have any real downtime, Right. I know just you and I trying to, work out our different schedules and, doing this documentary series, it's been really difficult to hardcore stick to that. I must have time that I am not working.
Right.
And that really did me in this past weekend with that migraine. I think it was the storm that came through with the tornadoes and stuff. I think that the change in the air pressure just triggered a migraine that was just sitting there waiting because I have not been sticking to that I must have time to myself kind of thing. But so speaking of physical health, a couple years ago you got a diagnosis. So tell us about before the diagnosis, what life was like, and then how you're doing now.
Well, I mean, life is normal until you realize something's off. And, when you suddenly look in the mirror and you're like 10 pounds lighter, and you're 20 pounds lighter, you can't lift things anymore, and you start waking up at night
and you're thirsty and you're thirsty and you never sort of like quench that.
Yeah.
And you start doing things you're not supposed to be doing, and you realize that something's wrong, and then you automatically default to, am I gonna die? Like, what's wrong? Something's got.
Right.
You know what? And then you start thinking, I need to take a vitamin. I just need to change my diet. I'm not eating enough bananas, you know. But then, like, no matter what you do, nothing fixes it.
Yeah.
And then you're young, and you look at the people around you who love you and are always there supporting you, and you sort of are like, I can't leave them.
Yeah.
But that's not really my choice. So, like, I don't know what's going on. So then you get kind of afraid, and you don't really want to check. You don't really want to go anywhere. You don't want to ask anybody. You'd rather not know.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll just pass.
Mm-hmm.
So then, after losing probably, like, nearly half my body weight, and then just everything got really hard. And then, naturally, I just never liked doctors, so I didn't want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until we went to New York, and I got food poisoned on the way home. It was like day before our like anniversary, like 3-year anniversary or something, and and I was already really bad at that time because you just start noticing little things, and then after about 2 years, it got to where you couldn't ignore it anymore, and the food poisoning pushed me over the ledge, and there was no way to recover. I had to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
And it had gotten so bad, like, I wasn't working anymore. I couldn't do anything. It was like I could literally only just sit down and watch TV. I couldn't do anything. There was any dream that I had, playing music or going anywhere. We used to go to Disney. Anything couldn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
And so you just have to face that moment of I got to figure out what it is. I got to kind of like,
What did you think it was? Did you think that it was? I guess I'm curious. Did you think that it was mental? Like, or did you know that it was physical?
No, I did at first. I mean, I think also I grew up a lot with an element always sort of like mind health can sort of like mind health is sort of like everything. If you sit there and tell yourself I'm not healthy, you'll find something that's not healthy about you, and your body will sort of like slowly like decay. You'll get sick. You're letting your guard down. Maybe you call it a little spiritual. But I don't know, I've always been mind over matter all the time. And so at first I was like, it's definitely in my head. And then I started realizing like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not, because everybody else is seeing it. Because I'd get comments. They'd literally grab me, are you okay? You need to see a doctor. And that scared me, like, really bad. And I knew that's like, well, if everybody else is seeing it, it's not in my head.
Yeah.
And and then it just became a time where you had to confront it. I guess you could say I played pretend for a while, just making it up, thinking, it's gonna pass. It'll pass. Everything passes. It's just it's a cold, deficient in some way or another. And then when I started really noticing the changes, worst thing comes into my mind, I'm gonna die of cancer or something. You know? I'm like, and then when I went to the doctor, he's like, well, 2 things. Justin, we're going to have you get blood tests. You're either going to come back when you got type 1 diabetes, or you have HIV. And he's like, it's just 100% one of those 2 things.
Oh my gosh.
And he goes, we'll find out tomorrow morning. And I was like, all right. He goes, but I'm pretty sure
doctor does that?
He has a very specific sense of humor.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and at that time, like, I had all sorts of stuff, so it wasn't just like weight and like recover food poisoning. At that time, like, I couldn't even drink or eat because I had like plush, like was that like
Thrush,
plush really
yes.
bad. Like I couldn't. It was so bad, like everything, and I was so weak,
my gosh.
and I was just like I was scared because like at that point, like everybody was really like something's wrong with Justin. We knew this for a long time.
Yeah.
And so I was just afraid, kind of honestly, like everybody's time is limited, so I get it, and I was sort of like accepting that, but I was like, I didn't want to see like the heartbreak around people. My mom's always like, we're supposed to go before our kids. She always would say that. There's no way, and I was like, I can't let her down. But if I can't control this,
right,
and it was just a whole lot to take in emotionally for a while.
Were you at that point, I mean, when the doctor says it's either diabetes or HIV, at that point, were you thinking like Dallas Buyers Club? I mean, were you thinking
did.
Matthew
Yeah,
McConaughey?
yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
you know,
I for a while I
can't
refused.
believe that a doctor
Yeah.
said that. And
Yeah.
so, you know, I mean, like, was it symptomatic? Did you have the symptoms of?
Yeah.
So I guess maybe then the symptoms of type 1 diabetes untreated and the symptoms of HIV untreated are
Pretty similar. Yep. Yep.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yes.
So that must have been a horrendous 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, at that time, because there was already so much stuff happening, and he just gave me antibiotics to make everything go away, you know, or just
Yeah.
temporarily like make it better.
Mm-hmm.
And either way, we're gonna figure out what it was. So at that point, I already felt like it was the worst it could possibly get. I didn't
Yeah.
think like, oh, if I find out, like my life is gonna be over with. At this
Gotcha.
point,
You
I had
were
already
already
been
thinking
enduring
my
for such a long period of time. I was just getting
Yeah.
so like tired, and I was like really tired of dealing with it. And everybody, like, again, it all comes back a little bit to you really care about everybody else around you, and so like they want you to feel good, so you're sort of are just trying to like hang on and get answers for them as well, you know, because it's not really just about you, it's about everybody else, you know, that is in the picture, and so, you know, it was all right.
So when you get your diagnosis, then what?
So he told me, and he says pretty much your pancreas doesn't work anymore. It's useless. And so you're going to be insulin dependent for the rest of your life. And he goes, I hope you're ready to giving yourself shots all the time, checking your blood sugar. And this is a matter of time before we like prescribes me like so much medical supplies. I was stressed at that time, so I had not been working. How in the world am I going to pay for it now?
Yeah.
And I need this. And it's like, it costs, it's so much. It's like, I can't even tell you even to this day how expensive this stuff is.
Yeah.
And it's not like somebody is just deciding to like, you know, put tobacco in a pipe and then just kind of like enjoy it leisurely. Like these things, like you have to have.
Totally.
You know, it's not pain medication.
Yeah.
It is stuff that you will die if you don't have it.
Mm.
And it was just an undertaking and learning and sort of coming to terms with, again, like I said, never have I ever liked or even thought remotely just to go to the doctor for a checkup, and now I have to give myself 3 shots and stick myself to check my blood sugar. How in the world is it? I was terrified to get a needle and inject it in my stomach. I was absolutely petrified on that. And but we just went with it one step at a time, and you know, slowly it became okay.
Yeah.
You know, again, because you start noticing, you give yourself 1 shot. You know, you give yourself 3 shots. A day passes, you suddenly are thinking a little clearer. You give yourself shots 3 times a day for a week. Suddenly, you're able to walk around the house again. You do this for a month, and suddenly you start feeling like, I miss going outside. You know, I miss going places. And then you can start noticing your body taking that in and really appreciating the present nature of medication that you've been needing for such a long period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And then you got a pump. Does that pump allow you to not have to do all of those shots, or you still have to do all of those shots?
Yeah, well, the pump, so you don't have to use shots at all. So
I am totally just curious at this point. I'm like,
the pump is cool.
tell me all about it. Tell me all about your hardware, Justin.
So I'm a full-blown cyborg. I don't, yeah, it's cool. So with this, you don't have to give yourself shots. And the only thing I have to do occasionally is just check my blood sugar just to make sure I'm in range.
Yeah.
But this is pretty much, it runs automatic. It's constantly giving me insulin.
Yeah.
And it's constantly just figuring out where my blood sugar is and making all those hard decisions for me. All the calculations necessary. And so most of the time.
That's how you're able to do all of these photo shoots without having anything to eat or drink. Like the whole time, you know, because I'm thinking of, so I had a family member who I wasn't around all the time, but I had a family member who had type 1 diabetes, and it was, I think that I want to say that it was back before the pump was a thing.
Yeah.
You know, where it was my grandfather, and he had to prick his finger, you know, every day and do the shots every day, and that kind of thing. And then I also had a student long after that, those experiences growing up and being around my grandfather, who had to do that. I had a student who had diabetes as well, and it was you know, it was one of those situations where if her blood sugar went too low, then we've got to have a snack. Like, you know, we had to have snacks around and ready for if her blood sugar fell. So I am constantly thinking about that when we are on photo shoots, and I don't want to make like diabetes is the, you know, the main you know, thing in our relationship or our life or our working, you know, but it's always in the back of my head.
Yeah.
Maybe he should have a snack.
Well,
like,
I like right before the shoot, I have these little pills. They're just glucose, like really just small little tablets of just sugar, and instantly it just puts me right where I need to be. So sometimes I do need it,
so
but
I can stop worrying about you because you have your tablets.
I'm pretty good all the time.
Always.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of us has them always.
Yeah. I feel like now where I am, you'd have to know me on a personal level or see the pump up close to know that I'm even a type 1 diabetic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I do forget until I need a drink or a snack, and I'm thinking, how's Justin doing over there?
Yeah, no.
I really do ignore you though, for the most part. Well, cool. So you're clearly back in a healthy place, because you are working a full-time job and doing these side projects, these film projects. So it seems obvious, but in your own words, how does that feel being back to, you know?
It's amazing. I always tell everybody I feel like it's like life gave me a sort of second chance.
Yeah.
You know, because I sort of thought everything was ending. And then as soon as I sort of understood value of being healthy, it's just not until you aren't that you start thinking that you took it all for granted. But now that I am, and I go to the doctor regularly for checkups, I just feel like I'm just so happy to be able to go out into the world and every single day, like, make the day the very best day and know that I have the opportunity to make it whatever I want it to be. And so just to know that I have, like, just to be able to walk out of the bed and do simple things in the day is a luxury that I once almost lost, and now I appreciate every single day. It makes me feel like incredibly grateful. Like, yeah, it's just crazy. It makes me feel so good.
Cool.
Let me grab this camera real quick.
I heard a beep. I'm like, something beeped.
Yep, there was a beep.
No.
So the artisans who create there are mostly transient and homeless, or have experienced homelessness and are getting back on their feet. And Repurposed Art Studio is a safe place for them to go and learn sewing skills, and other art skills. They can, make arts projects. Most of it is textiles, using textiles, and they have trained, I don't know what you would call, the word is escaping me. It's not a complex word. It's just escaping me. But they have tutors. That's not the word, but I'm going to use that one because I can't think of the one I want to use, who show them how to sew and or craft, And one of the main things that they do, one of the major things they do is repurpose clothing like they'll take a men's dress shirt and make an apron out of it. And I wanted to bring us those aprons, but I wasn't able to get there this weekend, and yesterday they had some special event going on, so I wasn't able to get there. So I was lamenting to my aunt that my aunt has been a patron of Repurpose Art Studio, so I called her and said, do you have one of their aprons? I want to take one to Sarah. And she didn't, but what she did have was Salvation Army volunteer aprons.
Oh, cool.
And the reason why this is so cool is because Ron Bell, who is the person who came up with the theme for this particular abstract project, the theme of recovery, he went through his recovery with the Salvation Army.
Oh, okay.
And so I thought that was, even though I was disappointed that I didn't have the aprons that I wanted us to wear,
Still has a connection.
it still had a connection. So we have Salvation Army aprons to protect our clothing. Not that I'm really concerned about that, but we have aprons, and I brought some
Cool, canvases. Perfect.
canvases for us.
Yeah, those are great.
So, yeah,
Sounds
I'm
good.
ready.
Let's do it. How I usually start this, let's decide how many colors we want to use.
Okay. 5 to 6. Let's go for it.
6. 3, 4. Alright, what kind of colors are you feeling?
I am usually a blue kind of person, but I
Okay.
am feeling red.
Okay.
So I am. Are we going to do, like you said, base color? Are we going to do 2 base colors? Because I am looking at that red and the pink.
You're feeling the red and the pink?
I am.
Okay, cool. So, probably about that much paint. Is
Okay.
about as much as you need, and then if you want to add something, a little bit to give it some kind of tone, you can.
I'm just going to stick a little bit in this to cut down on the neon.
Yeah.
Will that happen?
Yeah.
If I
Is it
put this
regular
lighter
pink?
one
Yeah.
in there?
My yellow's back over here.
When I was a kid, I never liked art class
yeah.
because it is, well, I'm sure that on some level it is a science, but it's too abstract, like the mixing of the colors and all of that, and I need a formula. I need a precise formula that I can
That
follow
you can
the
be
instructions
exact with.
and do it right, and the concept of just do it, it will be right is
It's hard for you.
not comfortable with that.
So we're gonna start pouring the base. So when I first started doing this, I was very much like linear half and half, cutting the canvas. But since I've tried to play with diagonals, and so whatever way you want to divide the canvas into your 2 colors, so I'll kind of like show you first.
Yeah.
Kind of just literally pour it out of the cup in whatever kind of way you want to. Cool, perfect. And whenever you're done with that, you're gonna go the other color and just pour around the area you didn't kind of cover already. We're gonna make a bit of a mess, which is why this looks like it does. The very specially handcrafted cardboard box of
Yes.
paint safety. We're gonna push it off the edge, and it's gonna run over so that it covers the edges. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna go the dark greenish guy first.
Okay.
Like kind of a little line or a shape where it's gonna go across. This is kind of not that thin, but that's okay. You can follow your outline that you did, or you can do something different. Give us each our own. It might be easier actually. your consistency is actually better than. I'll also go back sometimes and kind of like get some of the paint up, and it'll show like the yellow.
That was so fun.
Yeah. Yeah, when you do it once, you're kind of like, oh, now I'm addicted.
Yes.
There are many, many canvases in that closet that look like these. Like a lot, right? Got some to do soon when I have time, when the semester's over.
Yes.
Looking forward to the round one.
A little de-stress.
Yeah.
That's cute, that round one.
Yeah, that one I got for my birthday as like a special order because you can't get round canvases that are like that are thick like that. I'm like, why is this a hard thing to find? Get paint on this one. Now I have a large collection. I'll seal this one when I seal ours. Okay.
I love the green in that one, and normally I'm not a neon kind of person, but there's something about that dark sea blue and then, like you said, the contrast of that neon sort of looking green.
Yeah.
It's really pretty.
Thank you. My name is Sarah Walston, and my art of recovery is dance, choreography, and visual art.